Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to be back at the Conney conference. I want to thank you, Doug, for doing this always and making it so wonderful. Yona, thank you for hosting us so nicely here, and Ruth and the Conney family, and all those who made this conference possible. This morning, we are going to walk you through the development of our collaboration and the creation of Reverberations, a performance that presented a moment in history where time and reality were upended, a time whose echoes still resonate within all of us, as we have seen from so many of the presentations here in the last few days, a time whose relevance, unfortunately, has not diminished. I also want to thank my collaborator, friend, and colleague, Dr. Michelle Green-Willner, for her extraordinary generosity of spirit and willingness to expand the production of Reverberations in 2016. Unknown to us at the time, it would become our first of many collaborations. In just 2.5 years, we have performed 3 collaborative works and are currently working on our 4th, a chamber opera. David's Quilt, Fragments the Transformation, Fragments the Triad. Those are the 3 that have been performed so far.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michelle Green-Willner, and I'm delighted to be presenting here today alongside artist, friend, and collaborator Doni Silver-Simons. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank you, Douglas, Jamie, who I haven't met yet, and the Conney Conference for including us here today. Doni and I met through our husbands, who are in the audience. And when one was a patient, the other was a physician, and when they spoke of our wives, they insisted that we meet each other. Well, after a glorious Shabbat afternoon of non-stop art speak, I asked Doni if she'd like to join me on a project that I was presenting at the Museum of Tolerance in Los Angeles, commemorating Kristallnacht. The director of the museum, Liebe Geft, had heard a recording of mine titled The Stain of Blood, and she was interested in programming this suite for the commemoration. As an aside, that recording that Liebe heard was a performance of this suite held right here at the 92nd Street Y in this very hall on that stage back in 1990, the program of which was cited in Musica Judaica, the Journal of the American Society of Jewish Music, Volume 11, which you see here on the slide. As well, because the suite had just received the Bruce Geller Memorial Prize, there was some extra funding to reimagine it for the Kristallnacht commemoration. Back to 2016, after seeing Doni's beautiful and dramatic paintings with their monochromatic and densely populated markings, I thought they would enhance and augment my densely populated and intense music as backdrops to my suite. What I didn't expect was Doni's interest in performance art, and that's when our project exploded into an entire show. So Reverberations, and hence a collaboration, was born by accident. As a composer, I hope to present music that is both dramatic and evocative. I write many types of music for many different genres. My musical canvas can be emotional, abstract, dense, rhythmic, textural, colorful, angular, and melodic. My toolbox is composed of harmonic chromaticism, intervallic exchanges and manipulations, and the interchange of melodic ideas, all infused with a kinetic energy. In the show Reverberations, I use 2 aspects that I frequently turn to in my writing. First, the abstract exchange of pure musical ideas, which you can see here on the left, an idea which is slowly building, as well as these here, which are actually Yiddish folk tunes. And a second idea, the marriage of music and texts, whether prayer, folk song, poetry, or the Tanakh. I love using texts as a jumping off point, and for some reason the Hebrew language, both its sounds and phonetics, really inspires me. So that's what you see here on the right. Almost. Here we go. And the X's are spoken words, and then you see the notes there. And you'll hear that later on. As a conductor and composer, I have collaborated with many different artists, visual, dance, film, and literary, enjoying the energy and opportunities from each collaboration as they present a new and exciting journey.
To introduce you to my practice, I resonate in the conceptual and abstract realms of art, incorporating various genres, processes, and mediums. I mine the Jewish concepts of time, memory, and identity. Time, focusing on the Omer, and time as a spiral rather than a linear continuum. In this slide, in the foreground, you see a solo exhibition at the Slutsky Gallery, and this is the residual sculpture of a 3-month installation and durational performance on the Omer. In the background, you see Ne'ilah, a painting that was completed the day before Yom Kippur, and which we later used in Reverberations. Memory. Memory as it rests on the shoulders of history. Here you see a manipulated digital photo of the performance like a homing pigeon. And identity, my place in time and space. Shown here as a voice grab of me counting the Omer into sound work entitled Women Who Count that was shown at Arena One Gallery. Since the early 1970s, I have had parallel careers in the visual arts and in performance art, which is often durational in nature. My work is defined by its compulsion, its quietude, and its repetitive variation. Thriving on the solitude of a studio practice and solo performances, collaboration is a relatively recent trajectory for me. Though I thought it would mirror interactive work, which I have done extensively, it doesn't. Collaboration requires a melding, an interdependence, and a shared vision of work that is more important than our own egos. It is a unique, powerful, and humbling relationship.
The show Reverberations and its title was inspired by Elie Wiesel's talk on the 70th anniversary of Kristallnacht, which also occurred here at the 92nd Street Y, in which he eloquently stated reverberations from the past affect what occurs today. We are going to play a short video of the highlights of the 2016 Museum of Tolerance performance of Reverberations. Afterward, we will examine different aspects of our collaboration.
And when they sprayed my back, there flowed much blood. They shoot, and I really believed that my blood would cover the stain. A second barrage of bullets. I really believed that my blood would cover the stain. This way, or that way, but no sun had come. The mouth and the hand both had lied. The mouth and the hand both had lied. And I say blood, they say paint.
As you just saw in the video, Reverberations is a work in 3 parts. I will discuss this thematically in a moment. To unravel Reverberations chronologically, we will start with the prelude. The background music for the prelude, which you are currently hearing, is the instrumental version of Adonai Ma'adam, God, What is Man, the text taken from the Yizkor Remembrance Prayer, which would be fully performed during the show's postlude.
The prelude to Reverberations is where I entered into this collaboration. Seeing the atrium windows, the 3-story commanding rotunda, and the beautiful circular main floor of the Museum of Tolerance sparked my imaginings. It was a space that begged for performative work. I immediately saw the potential for this piece to begin with an art performance in the public space, transition to a traditional proscenium stage presentation in the auditorium, and then return to the rotunda alone for its conclusion. Throughout the prelude, the entire story of Reverberations, Kristallnacht, is enacted both abstractly and literally in vignettes, inviting the viewers to wander through the performance. It became an aperitif before the formal show began on the proscenium stage. The prelude introduced the narrative of the evening Kristallnacht. In the rotunda, as you see here, a mother, father, and child enact sequential events, dancing, happy, staggering, huddling. The sequence is repeated over and over, as it was for 2 nights in November 1938. This repetition underscores the number of times this event was repeated as each person, each family experienced the event on their own, representing time and its continuous and relentless movement. Performers, as pendulums of time, were placed in the atrium windows, rocking back and forth, ticking off moments, responding to the shocking of interruptions. The windows were bracketed by quotes from Elie Wiesel. In the back of the atrium, a lone woman sat knitting next to a pillar. Michelle was inspired by Milton Steinberg's quote, "It is when the world is most torn by conflict that the sheltered existence seems most appealing." When she introduced me to that quote, I realized that a major player in this event was every man. Those who refused to acknowledge reality, those who insulated themselves within the mundane. The knitting woman, representing every man, is a constant throughout the performance, an unfortunate reality even in our present time. As the stage show of Reverberations opens, the knitter walks through the auditorium, once again oblivious to all, and sets herself up stage right and begins to knit. The family wanders casually and playfully through the audience. They are on an outing to get their picture taken. Arriving at the photographer's studio, they pose, picture perfect. As we just saw in the video, the photo session is disrupted by the sound of shattering glass. We witness the destruction of the family as they respond to the chaos and the dissolution of any shred of reality. After what seems to be endless moments of angst, the father, now a shattered man, stands and starts sweeping the shattered glass.
It is then that the musical piece, Reverberations, begins on amplified violin. This is the piece that you have just heard in our video clip. Commissioned by the LA Jewish Music Commission, the piece resounds through time and sound with motivic echoes, quivers, tremolos, delays, depicting a dream sequence full of memories, running figures full of frenetic warning, and the collapse of melody leading to repeated brutality. Yiddish folk songs are manipulated in an effort to convey a pre, peri, and post-Kristallnacht. In pre or before segment, sound bites and their disruptions convey the hopes of German Jewish families who are living normal, happy lives, dashed amidst warnings of oncoming disaster. In peri or during, the clips become more abrupt, open-ended, and agitated, depicting the ugliness and the marching Nazi perpetrators. In post or coda, the devastation and haunting result is clear, the dying and relentless grief of the Holocaust. This segment, the coda, is performed as a real coda after the suite. The musical piece Reverberations has now set the mood for the suite to begin. Set as a back and forth collaboration, the movements of the suite were played and then performed. The Stain of Blood is based on 3 Israeli poems, which do not deal directly with the Holocaust, but together as a suite encompass an urgency of oncoming darkness and survival. Each poem is from a different generation of Israeli poets. Doni's evocative paintings became backdrop scrims to the 3 movements, which clearly enhanced both the poetry and the music. A 4th painting was used as the scrim to the amplified Reverberations piece, as well as to the coda. Abraham ben Yitzchak's Whose Dawn, Shachar Shalmin, proclaims the coming of a dawn whose sun is hidden. It is foreboding poetry, foreshadowing an oncoming darkness. In Amir Gilboa's In the Darkness, Ba'aletet, ending with, if they show me blood, and I say blood, they say paint. The poem denotes a lack of transparency, a lack of acknowledging reality. David Avidan's The Stain Remained on the Wall, Haketem Mishar al-Hakir, which is being played right now in the background, deals with attempts by those skilled hands of Steinberg's to alleviate the effects of blood that has been shed. The music itself displays this hopeless urgency, both stylistically with its dense harmonies, agitated rhythms, and overlapping textures, as well as dramatically with its use of both spoken and sung word. When I wrote this suite, I was very fortunate to receive permission to set the texts by both Gilboa's estate, having met with his wife in Israel about my project, and by Avidan himself, who listened to the music before signing off.
Back in the studio, the poems were recorded in English and played as voiceover narration. As each movement progressed, the performers presented a physical depiction of the poems. They were the counterbalance to the musical interpretation. The lead performer, Nicole Powell, personified the text, while the Greek chorus supported her and reinforced key elements of each poem.
Following this suite, the formal stage show was concluded with the coda, an immersive collaboration in which both dancer and now violist were present together on the stage, reacting to one another. The coda has since been performed independently a number of times, and here is a studio version.
The idea of greeting the audience with a prelude as they entered the museum led to the idea of exiting with the audience and finishing the work in the rotunda where it had begun. After a curtain call, the performers rushed out of the auditorium and were back in character as the audience exited. With suitcases in hand, the performers slowly and dramatically climbed the rotunda in search of a better life. The knitter, as always, sat outside their space and continued to knit.
Adoshem Ha'adam, God What Is Man, from the Yizkor Remembrance Prayer, now accompanied this postlude in full with the bass baritone singing in at the bottom of the rotunda. Lord, what is man that you should care about him, a mortal that you should think of him? Man is like a breath, his days like a passing shadow. At daybreak he flourishes anew, by dusk he withers and dries up. Reverberations was a very impactful show, both for us as collaborators and for the audience who were able to take this journey back in time with us, as well as for the performers themselves who were impacted by this horrific event in history. But more so, as the daughter of a Holocaust survivor, the journey helped me understand how on point Elie Wiesel was when he stated that reverberations from the past affect what occurs today.
I was impressed with Ruth Weisberg's panel yesterday on anti-Semitism, and specifically with Richard McBee's comments that to combat anti-Semitism, we have to make powerful, powerful art. I can tell you that the ripple effects of Reverberation on the crew and cast was just that. Many were not Jewish and reflected on the fact that this was the first time they had ever learned and or understood the devastation of the Holocaust. Looking forward, Michelle and I are currently working on a chamber opera titled The Beast Within Us. Based on a true story, this work explores the internal animalistic tendencies that exist within humanity.
Yes, I'm very excited about this next project. The idea derived from the Tanya that each of us possesses two souls, one divine, the other animalistic, and it is up to us to determine which soul prevails, is an idea that definitely intrigues me. Please watch for it. And now we would like to open the floor to any questions.